Hello, I'm Akiko HAGIWARA. I'm delighted to share my research project on learning kanji compounds. Japanese is very rich in compounds consisting of multiple kanji characters. Typically, students learn individual kanji first, then learn compounds by combining individual kanji. However, combining a single kanji to form a new compound may cause trouble because there are many compounds made of kanji that have unrelated meanings, just like Hitsuyaku. Some instructors have raised concerns that the meaning of component kanji may be confusing when learning opaque compounds. Thus, it should not be introduced. Kanji compounds can be categorized into 3 types, depending on the semantic relationships between component characters and compounds. The difficulty in increasing kanji vocabulary may be attributed to the opacity of compounds. Among kanji vocabulary for elementary to intermediate level second language learners, approximately 40% is transparent and about 20% is opaque, meaning that learners must deal with opacity of compounds. It's essential to pay attention to the meaning of individual kanji, even if the meaning may be unrelated to the meaning of compounds. The literature indicates it is actually essential. Recognizing the semantic value of component characters helps learn new Chinese compounds. A study investigating the learning of compounds by reading text revealed that transparent compounds are learnable, but opaque ones are not. A study investigating the growth of vocabulary found that existing knowledge of individual kanji facilitates the learning of novel compounds. In the current study, I predicted that existing knowledge and component kanji training both contribute to learning new compounds. However, existing knowledge may impose a cognitive burden, such as knowledge of cho and bi, when learning opaque compounds such as chori, because the meaning of the component kanji has no relation to the meaning of the compound. Given these hypotheses, I raised 3 research questions about compound learning by second language learners of Japanese. My first research question was, do learners spend more time in the learning condition where the component kanji is presented, regardless of transparency or opacity? The second question is, do learners benefit from component kanji training even if compounds are not transparent? Third, do learners benefit from their existing knowledge of component kanji? The participants were enrolled in the intermediate level Japanese course at the time of the at the time of participating in this study, and they were taking a course in a university in Japan. Their first languages were all alphabetic, mostly European languages. Speakers of Chinese and Koreans were excluded. There were altogether 57 learners. This is the list of two-character compounds used in this study, either fully transparent or fully opaque. Difficulty determined by frequency was carefully controlled. So the selection of these two-character compounds are based on previous literature review and investigation of frequency using database. Here is the procedures. In the pretest, I confirmed the learner's pre-existing knowledge of individual kanji and the target compounds. During training, learners observed the same compounds 4 times. So these are examples of transparent compound training screens used in my study. There are 2 types of slides used in the training. The learners viewed half of the compounds with component kanji as seen on the left side, and the other 50% of target compounds without such information as seen on the right side. All compounds are presented in one of the learning conditions in a random order during the training. For example, if the word kosetsu were assigned to with the component kanji condition, they saw kosetsu with individual kanji, hone and setsu 4 times. These are examples of opaque compound learning screens. I expected that learners would spend more time when learning opaque ones because making a connection between the target compound and the component kanji should be difficult due to semantic irrelevance. This graph shows the learning time. As I expected, learners spent more time learning opaque compounds. There was a large difference between learning conditions. When component kanji were presented, learners spent extra time learning target compounds. The statistical results confirmed that learners spent extra time in the learning condition where component kanji were presented. However, there was no significant difference between opaque and transparent compounds as seen in type. The difference between opaque and transparent compounds was observed in the learning condition where the component kanji was presented as seen in the interaction between type and learning condition. And there was also significant interaction between type and existing knowledge of component kanji. This graph indicates the results of the immediate and delayed recognition post-test. Learners recognized transparent compounds better than opaque ones. On average, 10.15% of the target compounds were familiar to learners before training. Therefore, data from already known target compounds, which were correctly answered on the meaning production pretest, were excluded from the analysis for each learner. In the immediate post-test, there was an interaction between compound types and existing knowledge of component kanji. When learners saw the transparent compounds, they were better able to use their existing knowledge. These are the results of the production test. Learners were more able to produce the meaning of transparent compounds. The statistical results indicate that there was no significant difference between opaque and transparent compounds. As expected, there was a main difference between learning conditions, meaning that when learners were able to confirm the meaning of the component kanji during training, they were able to produce a meaning of target compounds more effectively. Contrary to the hypothesis, there was no significant difference between opaque and transparent compounds. However, there was an interaction between compound type and existing knowledge. When learners saw transparent compounds, they were more able to use their existing knowledge. This is the result of the research question. As for the first question, yes, learners spend more time when they saw opaque ones accompanied by component kanji. They needed to spend more time because the individual component kanji's meaning are not related to the target compound's meaning. As for the research question 2, yes, but the effect was minimal. For the third question, yes, the more kanji the learners knew, the more they were able to learn new compounds, particularly for transparent compounds. The results of this study indicate that opacity has little effect. Regardless of opacity, it is essential to learn the meaning of individual kanji that are necessary for concept building. Knowledge of individual kanji is a foundation for integrating kanji to discover new compounds. A limitation of the study is the difficulty in controlling the different levels of transparency and opacity. Some compounds are more transparent or opaque than others of the same type. Future studies should explore ways to address different levels of transparency. The pedagogical implication found in this study are the effectiveness of presenting the meaning of individual characters. If learners understand the meaning of individual kanji, in this case, the center kanji, oya, learners can apply this knowledge to learn more complex words. For example, it is more easier to learn both parent or half parent, or even compound like close friend, shinyu, and shinsetsu, which means kind. So by the way, the center kanji has multiple meanings. However, even though the meaning is different depending on the compounds, the knowledge of the core kanji such as oya, should, help, learn, other words including this particular kanji. In my current project, I am investigating the usefulness of component kanji to learn half-transparent compounds, such as Ka and Kaikaku. The usefulness of the learning component kanji may depend on the semantic relations with a compound. For example, in case of Ka, I predicted that learning A is more useful than learning K to learn Ka. However, there was another possibility that even though single kanji like K has no semantic relation to business management, K should be still helpful because it's a part of a compound. So this is what I want to investigate in the future and start already working on this project. So, this research I talked today has already been published in the International Journal of Applied Linguistics. If you are interested, please read the article. These are references for the study I talked about today. Thank you for your time and attention to this video. If you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to contact me. Your interest in my research is greatly appreciated. So once again, thank you very much.